Hey everybody. Apologies for being late. We'll get started here in just a moment. I'm a little bit under the weather, not like super under the weather, but a little bit. It's good to see everyone. Happy Monday. Trust everyone had a fantastic week, I should say. And we're ready for a big week of earnings. We have Microsoft tomorrow. And then we have the Federal Reserve tomorrow as well. 30th through the 31st is the FOMC meeting. So if you guys can hear us and if we're broadcasting in 1080p, just give us a thumbs up in the chat and we'll get started. Thanks. Alright, what's up everybody? Good evening and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is Monday, July 29, 2024. It's about 10:06 p.m. Eastern Time here live in New York City. And we are overlooking Billionaires Row here at Central Park South and 5th Avenue. We have 220 Central Park South, Central Park Tower, a little bit of 157, and then the Steinway Tower, which is the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world. Right in front of this monument, we have the beautiful Plaza Hotel. One of my favorites on the outside anyway. This is the Crown Building, or the Amman, New York, where that big deal just closed. I think about $135 million for the penthouse. The Black Building, we have Trump Tower. And then you have the GM building, and one of my favorites is the Sherry Netherland Hotel, as we always talk about Jesse Livermore and reminiscences of a stock operator. So first and foremost, apologize for being late. It's been quite the busy day, and my voice may sound a little bit stressed. That's because I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm feeling good, but maybe a little cold coming on, so I apologize for that as well. But it's going to be another pretty busy week on Wall Street. Obviously, we heard from Alphabet or Google. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. Most likely going to spend the entire day talking about Microsoft as they report tomorrow. There's really three main business segments during earnings season that I like to zone in on, particularly as it relates to big tech. One of which we already heard from, which is Google Cloud. Tomorrow we're going to hear from the Azure unit of Microsoft, and then Amazon's AWS. And I think Microsoft is going to report really good numbers, because we can almost use Alphabet Google, right? Google Cloud, as a proxy for what's going to happen with all of the other companies during earnings season. And I thought Google Cloud growth was quite impressive. They had significant operating profit for the first time. Well, not the first time, but over $1 billion in operating profit for Google Cloud. And the future of software, generally speaking, is still the cloud. So I really do believe that the winner, it's not going to be just one winner. It'll probably be a combination of a few things. And we'll talk about the new OpenAI search product. I'm not sure if anyone saw OpenAI launched GPT search. Maybe that'll eat into the Google search business. How is that going to change and revolutionize advertising? Who knows? We'll talk about that. But tomorrow, the majority of the day is going to be focused around breaking down the earnings of Microsoft, which I think they're going to beat. I think they're going to beat in a big way. Hey, Doc7 is here. I see Shannon, Triple G. Thanks so much for joining us. Professor Dario, Alan, welcome. I see Sally is here. Lance, I see DM. Good to see you, DM. As always, Victor C, Sam M, Solo 401. Always a pleasure to have you here. Out and about. Cheers. Dale, GG NYC, Cape Cod Sarah, Reed Drummond, DC 322. David, good to see you. Monique, Ross, is this the plaza? It is. This is 1 Central Park South. Now, it's funny, Trump used to own 2 of the most iconic addresses, one of which being right here, 1 Central Park South, but he still owns 1 Central Park West. So to be able to own 1 Central Park West and 1 Central Park South, it's pretty cool, pretty amazing. So CGB, thanks so much for joining us. Jas says greetings to the Dominican Republic. Good to see all of our Dominican viewers. Trust you're well. Western Mass Dave. Just hello, Tom. You're working too much as always. It's been pretty busy, and I'm also preparing to leave the country. So it's looking like August 19th. I will be headed to Korea. I'm going to be in Seoul for maybe 10 days. And then from there, I have to go to Singapore, maybe for 2 or 3 days. So I'll be in Korea, I'll be in Singapore, and then we'll come back to the US of A. So we're probably gonna have about a 14-day break in the live stream here. But we'll figure something out. We'll put up content one way or another. Maybe we'll do like a standalone live stream somewhere. Dinesh, what's up? Thanks so much for joining us. Jeff in Southern Tier, New York. Welcome, welcome. Maybe we'll make a left on 7th Avenue. Continue to walk down Central Park South for as long as we can. This is the Ritz-Carlton right across the street. Now, we do have to cover one more thing. Did anyone hear the breaking news pretty much right at the closing bell today as it relates to CrowdStrike? So for those of you who don't know, CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity company that has been really at the forefront of one of the biggest, I think it's appropriate to call it scandals at this point. Massive global IT outage, which pretty much rendered many corporate IT infrastructure, as you could use the industry terminology, bricked due to a botched software update from CrowdStrike. Now, to cut right to the chase, it's reported that Delta Airlines has retained an attorney and they are seeking compensation from CrowdStrike Because I think out of all the airlines, apparently Delta got it the worst. It took them over a week to get all of their corporate infrastructure back on track. There were people sleeping in the airports for like 24 to 48 hours. It was a really, really bad situation. So this is going to be really wild to see how this plays out. Now, the stock price is really getting hammered hard, as you can imagine. So I think this is going to be, is it going to be irrecoverable? I don't know. But I think this is a huge reputation breaker for CrowdStrike, unfortunately. So, anyone have any thoughts on that? I mean, if it comes down to a point where, you know, Delta is going to seek retribution and compensation, you can only imagine how much blowback Delta got from that outage. You can only imagine. Here we're looking at 53 West 53rd Street. I actually saw them cleaning the windows on this today. Cash is good for Delta. Melissa 2087 says Delta was a mess. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Because whenever, you know, an airline has canceled flights, delayed flights, customers are pretty relentless, including myself, right? I oftentimes complain about the airlines. And the airline industry was already in trouble with delays, kind of recovering from COVID and all this stuff. Also, you could thank Boeing for a lot of the things that have been going on with the physical aircraft. But now you have this. It's almost just like you're kicking them when they're down. So potentially, Delta really had no other choice but to do this, because everyone's losing so much money. I think that's a lot of times we don't realize when you have these massive outages, even if a corporate infrastructure is down for 6 hours, that could quite literally mean millions of dollars in lost revenue. This is definitely going to be something to watch, and we'll see if there's going to be some sort of settlement. I can imagine there probably is. That's my take. I think there's probably going to be some sort of a settlement here, but we'll see. Melissa 2087 says, I was one of those clients who slept in the airport for Delta for 2 days. Wow. Holy crap. Now, serious question here. Hold on, I gotta put you guys down on the filthy garbage can. Give me 5 minutes. Well, 5 seconds. Okay, here's the question. So, didn't some new legislation get passed from the Biden administration saying that airlines have to physically compensate you if your flight is canceled or delayed? Didn't something like that just pass? I'm not super well read up on it or informed, but, or maybe it's unrelated. Anybody familiar with that? I mean, if that's the case, this must have cost the airlines millions of dollars. I read one article today in Forbes that said there was over 2,000 flight cancellations just due to the CrowdStrike incident alone, which is nuts. Brad says, I expect CrowdStrike to get hit, expect more. I thought about myself and my inability to trade on Schwab account all day. I think CrowdStrike is in deeper trouble than has been assumed. Stock should be crushed, and it really has been getting crushed. I think it was down again today. Western Mass Dave says, yes, Tom, our Mayor Pete got that pushed through. Yeah, I know it was Pete Buttigieg, but do you know the specifics of it? I don't know the exact specifics of it. It may just be as simple as they can't compensate you with credits. They have to actually give you the physical cash, or cash in hand, if you will. And I think that's actually pretty good. I think that's actually very good. Bellbrook and Candle, good to see you. Let's just take one quick look at Steinway Tower. Doc 7 says the market was not happy with CrowdStrike. Definitely not. Definitely not, for sure. So I'm just trying to do the mental math in my head. If that's the case, if there was over 2,000 flight cancellations, right, according to Dave, refunds for cancels over 2 hours late, well, I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars airlines had to dole out. Anyway, we'll follow it, we'll see what happens. CrowdStrike will be a punchline, game over. It's wild. Now, many people, right, are saying it's not a cyber attack. But not to sound like a broken record, I just can't imagine how anything like that happens. As we've discussed before, everything is a tiered rollout. You just don't mass blast an update to all of your customers at the same time, particularly not your enterprise customers. So we'll see. But on the flip side of this, right, talking about the negatives, right, we've pretty much covered the negatives for the past 2 weeks, the past week since it has happened. As CrowdStrike loses customers, they have to go somewhere. Right, they still need their cybersecurity, they still need their infrastructure protected, and that means they'll probably go to Palo Alto Networks or some other vendor like Zscaler. All right, this is the one and only Alwyn Court here. Yep, Alan says it takes forever to build a reputation and seconds to destroy it. We'll see what happens. Hey, Jay is here. This is pretty happening for a Monday night. It does seem quite lively. And Midtown Manhattan, particularly the business district, Park Avenue, is pretty packed today too. There was a lot of people in the city. Joel PM says what happened at CrowdStrike seems intentional, perhaps a disgruntled employee. I mean, I hate to speculate, but maybe it's just gross negligence and incompetence, right? We had that conversation too. It seems like a lot of current events that have been happening, just a lot of people are getting lazy, right? Not just blaming CrowdStrike, but just in general. And I made the statement that since the pandemic, I mean, and I'll speak for myself, I don't want to speak for anyone else, sometimes you just get a little lazy, I think. You know, people just gotten a bit lazy, I think myself included. And there's not a lot of repercussions. It doesn't seem like people are punished anymore for their mistakes. No one gets fired anymore for anything. Even if they make a huge blunder, like let a 20-year-old kid get 8 shots off at the former president, and not one person gets fired or even reprimanded or put on desk duty. You know, that sets a precedent for people where, hey, if I perform poorly, there's going to be no consequences, and people get lax. People get lazy. This is Engine 23, right next to 220 Central Park South. A Vornado development. Beautiful building. Brad says, hopefully mediocrity isn't our destiny, but right now it seems like it is. I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but talking from my experience, and prior to this, I was in tech, and I was a director of enterprise sales for the Northeast at a big MSP. The whole kind of work remote thing, oh wow, hold on, pause this. Look at how beautiful it looks. They usually have those blinds down. It looks like that's some sort of a ballroom in 220 Central Park South. Looks really, really beautiful there. Really nice. But when you have that option to work from home, at least for me, your body doesn't quite tell when it's time for work and when it's time for leisure. You're kind of out of it, right? I mean, we've all been there, you know, during the work remote stuff. The morning meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning, you roll out of bed at 8:45. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, it's okay to say it. We've all done it. It's quite obvious. And it's just, you're not ready. You're not in it. At least I wasn't. Not 100% from when I had to wake up super early, get to the office like 30 minutes early, prepare all the docs, prepare my presentations, review things, go over it. It just didn't have a structure. And I don't think a lot of people work well like that. And obviously it's a lot of other factors too, but I think humans work well with structure and order. And for some people, the work remote thing works. I'm not gonna say it doesn't, but I think for most people it doesn't. I really do believe for most people, the whole working remote, working from home, if you're really honest with yourself, like if you can just look yourself in the mirror and be totally honest, brutally honest, and say, am I performing 110% working from home? Nah, no way, no shot. There's just no shot. Again, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but that's kind of how I interpret it. Hey, Tom Glass says people in office environments these days complain about being too busy. That used to be a good thing, and missing structure is part of it. Definitely. Hey, Margaret, what's going on? Let's actually start to head down now. Zozo Bob's is working from home requires discipline. For sure, and I mean, imagine the people with kids. I mean, imagine you have kids. I mean, it's a distraction, it definitely is. But some people can do it. I'm not saying no one can do it. I don't want to generalize, but I really do believe if we're being honest with ourselves, there's no way. You definitely get more work done at the office when it's quiet, or just in some sort of setting where you can have some peace and quiet, I guess. Let's go ahead and make a left as we head through Columbus Circle, and we will head downtown. Now, another thing I just wanted to bring up briefly is tomorrow officially kicks off the FOMC meeting, or the Federal Open Market Committee meeting. That's going to be going on from July 30th to July 31st with a public speech and a public announcement from the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on the 31st, which is going to be on Wednesday, and we're going to get a new monetary policy update. Now, if you type !CME in the chat, so once again, !CME in the chat, it's going to bring you to the Fed futures market. And if you scroll down to the probabilities table, it'll give you the updated probabilities that futures are pricing in for cuts or rate hikes headed down the line. Now, it looks like we're not going to get any change on Wednesday, which I think everyone is expecting, right? No change to the Fed funds rate at the end of July, but I think the market's pricing in a little over 90% likelihood we at least get some sort of a rate cut in September, maybe to the tune of 25 basis points. And if you look all the way out by Q2 of 2025, remember, going into next year, we may have about 150 to 200 basis points worth of cuts by middle of the way next year. So pretty much this time next year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Fed chair has to say. I think that's really what the market is looking for here. Really kind of a boring day on the street. Not a whole lot of activity, not a whole lot of volume. I think that volume will pick up Wednesday, into Thursday and a Friday, as people have a little bit more clarity about update on monetary policy. Now, what are your thoughts? You think we're going to hear anything new? Anything groundbreaking? I really don't think so. I think the tone may be a little bit more dovish than usual, but definitely no change in the Fed funds rate on Wednesday, in my view. Hey, Zozo Bob is here from Miami. What's up, Zozo Bob? Blue Marlin, Triple G. We're going to be walking down New York City's 8th Avenue tonight. This is the Hearst Tower, 300 West 57th Street. Super, super cool building. Who Dat Dave's is 0.25% cut in September. Yes. Patrice 2020, what's up? Eighth Avenue is always a little bit hectic and crazy. Let's see if the Wingstop is busy. That's been a huge TML, true market leader.
Oh my gosh. I like that we were.
I'd say it's a steady stream of people in there coming in and out. I was reading that some rapper, I forget his name, owns a lot of those Wingstop franchisee locations that he's done quite well with. I forget his name. Does anybody know? I'm thinking maybe Rick Ross, potentially. Brad's Brains' Kava has had a couple of nice days. Yeah, we're going to hear from them in 2 weeks, I believe. 14 days, they report. Which I'm very, very eager to see how they report. It's a great company. For some reason, I was looking up the most profitable franchisees, and apparently Subway is the worst for whatever reason. The fees are really, really aggressive. So I hear. anyone have any thoughts about the possibility of Nvidia merging with Intel or Nvidia acquiring Intel? Do you think that'd be a good play, a bad play, or not possible? What are we thinking? Stephen says Nvidia is quite the behemoth to take out anything. That's true. I mean, Intel's stock price has been getting crushed. If you think about the wind, quote unquote, in the sails of semiconductors, Intel has not caught any of that wind. Zero. Check out this building, 242 West 53rd Street. Says Intel is going downhill. It's possible for Nvidia to consume Intel. Well, they definitely have the funds to do it, but the question is anything there at Intel salvageable? I'd say maybe. Now, from what I've read, Intel has not done a good job at all with prioritizing and investing for innovation. Quite the contrary to Nvidia. Intel has prioritized corporate compensation, executive compensation, and share buybacks and stock buybacks. And that almost always leads to the death of a company. Like, you could pull up pretty much any major semiconductor company that's doing well. Nvidia, Broadcom. This is the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. AMD. And if you look at a monthly chart, monthly time frame, and compare that to a monthly time frame of Intel, you can just, without even knowing the name of the company, without knowing the chart you're looking at, you could say, yeah, that one's definitely Intel. Dave says, what do you think if China invades Taiwan? Will that negatively impact Taiwan semi? I just don't think that China would ever invade Taiwan. I really don't. Although, to be fair, I am not good at predicting geopolitical conflict. If you remember before Russia invaded Ukraine, I actually came on the broadcast saying, it's all BS. There's no way that Putin is going to make a move and invade Ukraine. You know, he's just lining up their troops on the border as an intimidation tactic, blah, 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 blah. And that prediction really, really blew up in my face. So I'm not the best. Well, let me rephrase that a little bit more direct. I'm really horrible at predicting geopolitical outcomes. So I don't know. It's not my wheelhouse. But I could imagine it would have really, really horrible effects on the market. Now, the reason why I don't think that China would ever do it, keeping in mind my track record of predictions here, that would harm China just as much as anyone else. So I don't think they would ever take a big self-inflicted blow like that. But again, you know, I kind of had the same exact thought process with Putin invading Ukraine. You know, why on earth would Russia ever invade Ukraine? It would just be a massive death toll meat grinder, which turned out to be exactly that. Just a massive death toll meat grinder. The whole war is just disgusting. It's literally just, it's terrible. It's just, all war is really terrible, but this one in particular, it's just sending people just into a big meat grinder. It's just so bad. Oh, this is the place that I wanted to go to. So I tried to make a reservation, but they're booked out for weeks, this place. Frank says it would destabilize the whole region. Absolutely. And, you know, this may sound like this is going to be like an unpopular take, but globalization, in my opinion, right? In my opinion doesn't mean much. But really since 2008 on, we've had this huge push towards globalization. And I think that's kept us away from nuclear war, honestly. I really, really do, because our economies are so interconnected now. And it really just goes to highlight that saying, you know, if the US economy catches, or if the US economy sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, which is very, very true. China has a vested interest for the United States to do very well economically. Now, why is that? Well, we buy all their stuff. I mean, could you imagine if the United States was plunged into a massive recession, right? China is already not doing that well. We talked about monetary conditions in China. Now, China has always been one to manipulate their currency, try to prop their currency up. But now with all of the stress going on in their real estate market, they have to start to cut to try to stabilize the real estate market and to prevent their whole economy from crashing at the expense of their currency. Now, could you imagine if at the same time the United States goes into recession? That would be very, very bad for China. That would be probably the worst thing for China ever. So whether you like it or not, in my view, like a 30,000-foot view looking down, globalization has been relatively good to keep peace, relative peace, amongst nations, because our economies are all so interconnected.
Yeah, because I thought it dropped.
Particularly in the semiconductor industry too, if you really want to drill down. Semiconductor manufacturing is done in one part of the world. I would say the leader in semiconductor chip design is the US, but definitely not in production and manufacturing. All right, let's continue to head down. Chinook wins as a large portion of Taiwanese want to reconcile with China. There's a political party. Yeah, but here's the thing. I wouldn't say there's a large portion. There's also a portion of people in the United States that think that, you know, China should, what's it called? Not China. Texas and Florida should secede from the United States. These are a small group of, I don't want to use the term radicals. But yeah, you have that in every single country. But I would think the vast majority want independence. Now, it doesn't look like it's too busy in Times Square. So maybe we'll have enough mental fortitude to blow right through the middle. Let's see. Yeah.
Oh, from Nashville. I walked in Wall Street.
Yeah, how are you, man?
Oh
Good
my
to see you.
gosh! Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch almost every night from Nashville.
Oh,
Good
dude,
town.
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Holy cow!
Oh,
Sorry, dude. Are
No.
you on right now?
Yeah, but it's okay. Yeah, you had the Bitcoin conference with today.
Yeah. We were here.
Oh, you were
doing
here?
Stuff. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
No, dude, that's awesome. Yeah.
You sent the restaurant recommendations. I sent you an email.
Oh,
You were
which one did I recommend?
like 8 or 10.
Oh, did you go to Tape 31?
That was one of them. We haven't gone there yet.
You should go to that one. You should go to that one tomorrow because it's usually not that busy.
I'm so sorry, Dave.
No, it's okay. That one's it's usually not that busy on the weekdays, but the weekends are like crazy for the reservation. So that one's awesome.
Did you do a photo?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fanboy. All right, 3, 2. Nice.
Hey, nice meeting you. What was your name again?
Nick.
Nick, nice to meet you.
And I've never been
I'm
interested
Andrew.
in financial
Yeah.
info before. Like literally.
Oh, great,
I'm like
yeah.
a sort of grown up. I'm going to be 59, and
Awesome, dude.
your thing is what hooked me. So
Oh,
thank
that's
you.
awesome. Well, welcome to New York. If
All
you,
right,
if you
yeah.
need anything else, just send me an email.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Awesome.
Take care. And I might post it.
No, dude, you're good. Hey, take care. That's a nice guy. They're from Nashville. And Nashville just had the Bitcoin conference. That's so funny.
Thursday at 9 and 11 o'clock.
All right, let's see what we got here. Hey, Sunshine NYC, what's up? Middle-aged grinds is when I came into the job market after graduating in 2004. Jobs were tough to come by. Not anymore. I guess it depends on what industry you're in. But that's good news to hear that. I think you've had a little bit of a, I won't use the term recession because I don't think that's an honest term. You have had a slowdown in tech specifically. Well, obviously, throughout 2022 and 2023. So if anyone was in the software space, the IT space, you have had a pretty significant slowdown. But I actually think it's on the up and up. I think SaaS cloud is rebounding in a major way. And I think that slowdown was normal. You know, a lot of people wanted to attribute it to, you know, policy or politics, but I worked in tech for 12 years. It's very cyclical. It's very, very boom bust. And the reason for that is because when you go through such a massive economic expansion, companies spend too much on software. And then you have a period of consolidation. So maybe they'll buy 20,000 licenses of something, but they only need 15,000, right? Because they just went through a layoff or something. So it causes a cascade effect through the industry, which works itself out in, 24 months, just like anything else would, I guess. How are we doing on the internet? Hired 3 additional installers in the last month. Bring on the work. If you build it, they will come. That's good news. Now, Brad, is everything pretty much back to normal in Houston now? What would you say? Are the lights finally back on for everybody? Yeah, for a Monday it is kind of heavy, to use your terminology. Mark Francis says, yeah, Houston is back to normal. That's good. Very, very good. Hey, Scott Solomon says, Tom, really enjoyed your walk from Red Hook to Brooklyn Bridge and City Hall. Yeah, that was a crazy one, right? That whole neighborhood of Red Hook, Brooklyn has changed so much. If you haven't been there, I'd even say 5 years, you probably can't even recognize it. It's so different. I think there's probably going to be too many people to walk straight down.
The road signs. What do you do?
I think we'll have to make a right. There's too many people down there. Bob's is just joining. Thank you for taking us on a New York City tour again. Tom, do you think we'll get a soft landing and avoid a recession this time? I think it's already been avoided. I mean, that's kind of my take on it, if you think about it. Ever since the Fed started to raise rates, we've been talking about, are we going to have a soft landing, a hard landing? I mean, the economy's been pretty robust, and it's held up quite nicely. And the equity markets have been very, well, I shouldn't even say very, extremely strong. So I would say we've pretty much already engineered that. But once the Fed starts to cut, we'll see. I think another interesting positive is that there's a lot of people that are negative and like doom posters, I should say. Not that there wasn't like that already, always. But if you go on the X platform, or even if you watch some of these really big podcasts about the financial markets, I mean, they've been wrong for over 12 months. And even talking about, anecdotal data, restaurants are packed here in New York, people are out, business activity is pretty much back to normal, hotels are doing great. I mean, just look at the hotel hospitality sector, that's been doing really good. We could actually check that out right now. My phone has like 3% battery, but we may have just enough to check out some of the main hotel stocks. Yeah, like Hyatt, Hilton has been performing really well on their last quarter, particularly Hilton.
Okay, we're walking behind you.
It said that business travel is pretty much going to be 100% back to normal.
Get me on there.
Daytona Gal says, Tom, thank you for talking about money market accounts at local banks. I did some homework and found Fifth Third Bank offering 5.3% for 6 months. So that's like an annualized rate. But I would just look at just a regular money market account in like a brokerage, like Schwab or Interactive Brokers. You could park money in a money market account. You have total liquidity, and those are near, 5%. So it's good. Now Daytona Gal makes an interesting point, because one of the things that we talked about being that it is earnings season, and we just heard from JP Morgan Chase, they're not seeing a lot of capital flight from customers in checking accounts. And you would think since the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, Jamie Dimon would have given us a little bit more money in terms of the interest that they pay on checking accounts. It hasn't really changed at all. Maybe that's just because people are creatures of habit, but if you use like a Charles Schwab bank account and combine it with like a brokerage account or any broker dealer, money markets have very, very high interest and liquidity instantly, right? You don't even have to tie up your money like with CDs. You don't have to keep it in there. There's no penalties. All right, so we're back on 8th Avenue. Coming up on the Port Authority bus terminal. OGO's Vanguard Federal Money Market is 5.29%. It's really good. And those are positive real rates. Our last CPI print was what? 3%? So it's technically a real rate for the first time in a long time. And you might as well take advantage while you have it, because the market is pricing in rate cuts for next year. So if you're kind of a risk-averse person, maybe now's a good time just to park your money in a money market account while rates are still high. Doom and gloom is overrated. It was the same thing back when I was young. It cripples people not to believe in the future. I definitely agree with that. I think the best thing to just rationalize is that economies go through periods of growth and economies go through periods of contraction since the beginning of time. That's it. but you got to be a participant. You know, we're lucky enough to be, you know, born in the U.S. and here in the United States. So you have to participate in the game. And the game is capitalism and free markets. And you have to be a participant because that's how you're going to get all the opportunities. You know, if you sit in your bed all day and listen to, like, you know, the Peter Schiff show and never get out of your bed, well, then all the opportunities are going to pass you by. And I like Peter Schiff a lot. I actually do listen to his podcast religiously. But if you were to, like, indoctrinate yourself into the Peter Schiff, you know, outlook that the U.S. dollar is going to collapse, that the U.S. stocks are going to underperform and European stocks are going to outperform, you'd be broke, quite literally, because the exact opposite has happened since the lows of 2008. U.S. equities were the place to be, and no other place was the place to be. Right? If anything, I think most of Europe and the UK is unfortunately probably doomed. And I usually don't say things like that. So more than ever before, I think the US is a one-way street. I really do believe that. So you got to get in there. You got to take risk, obviously calculated risk, and you have to put your money to work. Never underestimate the U.S. economy. Agreed. I mean, if we just take it to a very, very fundamental level, right? There is an obvious high correlation between earnings growth and asset prices, if we're talking about stocks, right? Look at S&P earnings in the year 2010 and look at S&P fiscal year earnings now and what they're projected to be in 2025 and 2026. It's a straight line higher. So over time, right, it doesn't mean the market goes up in a straight line. You have corrections, just like we had in 2018, was a big pullback. 2018, the market, I believe we actually bottomed on Christmas Eve. It was like that huge waterfall sell-off. Then you had the big COVID correction. Then you had the huge bear market of 2022 through 2023. But over time, should corporate earnings continue to go up, the market should continue to go up over time. If corporate earnings double, or if corporate earnings grow by 8% a year, then the market ought to double roughly every 16 to 20. Alright, so we're coming up on the New Yorker Hotel. West 36th Street, 8th. Let's make a left and go back to Broadway. guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight. Feel free to leave a like on the video. And click the subscribe button if you're new. Middle-aged crisis. This isn't political opinion, but how will the $35 trillion debt factor into the picture? It's a huge piece, and it's very, very concerning. But here's the reality of the situation, be it an unfortunate reality or not. This is a debt-based system, and unfortunately, for the system to self-sustain, it pretty much means you need debt acquisition in perpetuity. Now the problem is, here's the problem. If what's allowing our politicians to be irrational with the spending is the strength of the US economy. That's what's allowed our politicians to be very erratic with the spending, whether you like it or not. And depending on who we elect as our next president, whether it's going to be President Donald Trump or Madam President Kamala Harris, both of them are pretty much one and the same as it comes to fiscal policy, whether you could believe it or not. Trump is a big spender. And the Biden administration, which is pretty much the same as going to be the Kamala Harris administration, they're big spenders. So really the only thing that can bail us out of this situation is innovation and AI, which has a pretty good shot potentially of being able to grow our way out of this mess. But it definitely is very, very concerning. Now the other thing that allows our ridiculous spending is other countries, right? The rest of the world, if you think about it, is pretty much subsidizing our way of life. I mean, are they not? If you break it down to bare bones, how the world works, the money just doesn't come from money heaven, right? It needs to be printed, and the Treasury needs to sell US Treasuries to raise money. Right? And who buys treasuries? Yeah, the Federal Reserve buys treasuries, right? But also other countries and nation states buy US treasuries. So long as there is an appetite for US treasuries, people are buying them. That funds the operations we got going on here in the United States. Now, the big thing, and I know I've said the big thing like 3 times, but these are critical points. What has everybody around the world so confident to keep their appetite for US debt high, relatively high, is because we're trustworthy, right? We are a trustworthy nation to pay our debt obligations. We've never defaulted on our debt. So nations around the world are like, okay, the United States is going to pay us back. You know, they're not going to be derelict in their duties to fulfill their obligations, which I don't think we will ever default on a payment. So that's kind of what's keeping things going. Look at this. This is a great shot of the Empire State Building. 34th Street and Fashion Avenue, or 7th Avenue. Since we're here, we might as well check in on the brand new Pen 2 project. I haven't been here in a while. Hey, what's up, Scott? Hey, Shrek, says Tom, what video of yours have you profiled Wall Street? I think I've done a few pretty in-depth walking tours of Lower Manhattan, starting from Trinity Church and going all the way down. I haven't done one in a while though. I think the last one I've done was in the winter. I actually may have to film another one. Because surprisingly, there's been a lot of changes between the winter and now. The brand new entrance to the Long Island Railroad. And right here is that Black Box Theater. Plaza 33. See Hudson Yards in the distance. And here we are at Madison Square Garden. There was 2 new leases that were signed here. I think Major League Soccer signed 100,000 square foot of space at Pen 2, as well as Madison Entertainment, or Madison Square Garden Entertainment. $100,000 square feet is huge. I couldn't quite possibly imagine what Major League Soccer needs 100,000 square feet of space for. But it's definitely good news for the project. I know Stevens is just for MLS. It's crazy, 100,000 square feet. That's the kind of numbers that you see like Amazon or Meta put up, these big tech companies. Not for soccer, but maybe that's going to be their main headquarters, who knows. soccer, you have 1 Manhattan Square and 2 Manhattan Square. Gregory says, I own a 50,000 square foot building, 100,000 square foot isn't that much. But for soccer? Really? I mean, soccer in the United States? Maybe you're right. I mean, how many employees do you think Major League Soccer, like the org, really needs? I know that the sport has grown. Major League Soccer has grown in a major way. But you still can't really compare it to the leagues in Europe, I don't think. Maybe one day the goal is to get there, but I don't think the interest in soccer in the United States is to the level as you see over in Europe. Hey, New England Crypto, what's up? Here's the Moynihan train hall, train station right here. We'll take you guys inside. We haven't been inside in a long time. Seems as if they've actually cleaned up a lot of the area. Well, usually they still have the doors open. We'll see. I've never noticed this. Can you imagine what it was like back in the day? when every single window is open. Now we only need like 2 people here. If anyone needs to get a passport fast, come right here. There's a separate passport office. Hey, JFK. Yeah, right here's the passport office. Super efficient, very quick. All right, let's head out. Now you're back on the stairs. I know, Western Mass Dave. This is JFK, I remember that day. They almost tried to do it to, they almost tried it again with our boy Trump. Missed by less than 1/4 of an inch. Thank God. Look at this lone seagull here. Vault 91 says after that, cars with open roofs for presidents were canceled. I did not know that, but it makes sense. I feel as if, I really don't think any president should be doing outdoor speaking events without some type of bulletproof glass enclosure. It just seems like the obvious thing to do. I think nowadays, particularly with social media, I would be in favor for expanding the funding to Secret Service to even some notable members of Congress, because some notable members of Congress are almost as popular as some presidents, right? Both on the Democrat side and the Republican side. I just think we live in a new world where information travels so fast, very polarizing times, where I think, you know, from a standpoint, that's kind of what's preventing some people from running for office. They're like, oh my God, I mean, it's so dangerous. There's going to be crazy people coming after me all the time. So, I don't know. I think that's taxpayer money well spent to provide security for all sitting members of Congress, I think. I mean, it's too crazy. People are too crazy. And if you're running for office, if you're making policy, well, there's going to be about 50% of people that disagree with the policies that you're putting forward, and then maybe 1% of people that are so radicalized and crazy that they'd be willing to try to, you know, harm you or your family, which is wild, but that's just the reality where we live. So I don't know. I think that's a rational concept. I think if you are a Congress, you know, woman or man, I think you should get at least some type of security decal, maybe just at least a private bodyguard or something. Just makes sense. People are crazy out there, guys. It's wild. I will take one more detour. Huh. A lot of people miss this, but you can see the skyline of Manhattan on the ceiling. Look at this. Isn't that cool? I always think about the thousands of people who walk right past that every day, and they have no idea. Most New Yorkers have no idea too. They come right off the Long Island Railroad or the Amtrak, and they never look up. They have no idea that it's even there. But it's the skyline of Manhattan hanging upside down. Triple G says AOC with a swag bodyguard. She should. She should. I mean, again, like I said, not to hammer on the subject, but people are nuts. People are nuts. And I mean, AOC and I couldn't be more different. It's like a total 180 on almost everything. But politics is politics. Doesn't mean you should try to harm somebody. So, and I think particularly her. I mean, she has what? Like over 2 million Twitter followers. A lot of people pay attention to what she has to say. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. And there are some crazies out there. So I think she definitely should have security. Baker 405 says B&H. Yeah, we're about to be there in 2 seconds. I wish we could walk through the entire train station. But there's no internet inside Moynihan. Zero internet. Which is just the most crazy thing ever. This is one of my favorite shots of all time, which is where I think we'll call it a night, everybody, because it's almost 11:30 at night. And I'm a teeny bit under the weather, so I don't want to take it for a full 2 hours tonight. Just as a quick reminder, we will be sending out our free investing newsletter this Thursday. So if you enjoy a lot of the conversations we have each night about the financial markets in New York City, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and it'll take you to our Substack, where we publish all of our equity research for free every other Thursday. So check it out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we're mainly going to be discussing Microsoft, as they will be reporting earnings and doing a deep dive into their cloud segment, which is Microsoft Azure. So Cash, appreciate it. Out and about, all of our moderators, Jeff in Southern Tier, New York, Joseph Hardaway, thank you so much. Sally, appreciate it. Donna, Cash, Baker, Mark Francis, Zozo Bob, Alex, Paul, always a bull market somewhere, you just need to know where to look, and Professor. Cheers. Thanks everybody.